Okay, this is Sunday. It's Thanksgiving Sunday. And I guess this chart's going to turn out to be a teaching series, not using, uh, putting dates on things, but trying to bring forth this chart that the Lord gave to Chuck Youngbrant. Because we know this 3-year timeline is very specific, but you have to watch for the signs. So what I would like to focus on tonight is the third right-hand part of the timeline, and to go to the New Madrid earthquake right here. So we're establishing the third year of the events that's going to take place in the third year. So we know that the New Madrid earthquake is a major sign, right, when it happens. It happened on July 5th. And we know that this is going to cause the Mississippi to divide and spread apart. And that's where it's going to go all the way up to the Great Lakes. Excuse me, I got a cold here. So, what does that tell us? That tells us that before the New Madrid takes place, you're going to have to see a Psalms 83 war happen here. Okay? Psalms 83 war has to happen here. And this is where America divides Israel. This is where the Lord showed us in visions back in 1986. We saw a Middle East war break out here. It was before the first Desert Storm even broke out. And we saw conflict in the Middle East where the United States military was there. And the battle went air, land, and sea. And all the United Nations were involved in this war. What was taking place in Israel, and that ended up with the destruction of Damascus, actually, at this point. So right in the end, what happened is that the man of sin stood up, and he brought peace to the Middle East. So we know before the New Madrid happens, the Psalms 83 has to happen, and that's going to bring the final peace agreement between Israel and the Arab states. And then you're going to see the temple built, right? So we're in there. This would be July 5th of 2022, and another sign. I'm not saying it's going to happen 2022. Only if we see these other major signs, like New Orleans being destroyed by an earthquake in September, and 4 cities being nuked in the month of December of the first year, then that's going to set the timeline for here. So once this happens, we're going to know when the New Madrid's going to take place. So long as we know that we're coming into the first year of the timelines, and like the main events don't come right away, but you can have to be observant of the minor signs that take place, like the serious economic crumbling, the reset that's taking place now, devaluation of the dollar. Then it gets worse, right? Stock market crashes, loss of half the jobs, and over here everything falls apart. So we know in this part of the timeline, the New Madrid is going to be preempted by a Psalms 83 war. That's where Israel and the Arab nations are going to come to a peace agreement, and they're going to build the temple. So this is very important to understand this part. In conjunction with this, physically, before the New Madrid will split, right? Before that split happens, this one brother saw an asteroid hit Puerto Rico that caused a 12.0 quake, a judgment quake, and a wall of water rose up at 2 o'clock in the morning that took out Florida, then the eastern seaboard. So we know that event's going to happen, that before the New Madrid takes place, we're going to see an asteroid hit Puerto Rico. I forget this brother's name, but it's been about maybe 4 or 5 years ago since he brought it up. And there's another factor. There's a spiritual factor in all this. And I'd just like to go back, in order, when the New Madrid happens, the split would be caused. God would cause a fracture all the way from the Puerto Rico Trench all the way up the Mississippi. And so when the Mississippi kicks off, it's going to cause America to split, right? God's going to divide America. And this is the only place that can actually happen. There's another event we need to take in is the 21-year timeline that Terry Bennett had, leading, the 3 sets of 7s, and he is saying that the final set of 7 will happen at the end of 2022, right? This is where we start to enter in, if this timeline is correct, that the 3rd set of 7 starts at the end of 2022, or is it the end of 2021, right? Because the last set of 7s is from the beginning of end of 22 to the end of 28, the last 7-year timeline. So we know that the Antichrist is going to begin to stand up just prior to the 7 things happening, right? And so that's about all I can say. I should actually document this and write this down, but let's go over it again. We know that the new magic is going to happen here, July 5th, in the 3rd year of the timeline. And for that to happen, there would have to be a Psalms 83 war. That's going to be a 7-year peace treaty that's going to be ushered in for the final 7-year period for the Antichrist kingdom, and bringing in the false move, the counterfeit move, and the rising up of the spirit of Antichrist, right? In the early stages of it. So we know that we're going to be in persecution, a time of persecution, the closer that we come to the end of 2021. Because when we come to this place, is where we transition into the 7-year period. And that's what Terry Bennett was showing. He was given the 21 years. That started in 2008. So this ushers in the last 7 years. So this kind of puts the brakes on the 3-year timeline for this to happen. This will be the time for it to happen. This timeline would have to be ushered in before the end of 2021. And we're also going to see an asteroid impact in Puerto Rico. That's going to hit at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's going to hit the Puerto Rico Trench. It's going to cause I think he said a 12.0 judgment quake. So this would be the sign of judgment going forth. And a 1,000-foot tidal wave that would take out southern Florida. Then it would, if the East Coast wasn't evacuated, I think he said it would cause about 26 million would die. So we know there's going to be great things that's going to begin to happen, prior to God physically dividing America when that asteroid hits. And so we need to understand this. So it seems like 2020 over here, to watch out for the minor signs. And if you go, I still got my 11 by 16 foot or inch chart, and it has all the minor signs. I'm only putting the major signs on this one. I need to work on that, but I could actually plot them down and maybe just make a doc out of what I'm talking about now. Kind of put it all together so you can see it. Then I can have the name of the person that actually saw the asteroid hit and things like that, so you can go back and reference. You can reference Terry Bennett. So this would be the homework for you guys to do, to look up the stuff that I'm sharing with you to see if it be true or not. But as an overall perspective, looking at the end of 2021, that's a signal to usher in the time of the beast, the final 7-year period, and that's exactly what we see here. So that means, using these dates, if this is the 3-year time frame, that 2020, we're going to see the minor events start together, increase, and climate phenomena, climate change, increase in the heat of the crops, early crop losses, like the events are going to start here, there'll be shortages, and then it's going to increase, and it's going to be where everything goes to full tilt, right? Okay, I'm going to leave it here.